Hey guys, Eric here with driverlineup.com, world's okayest steering wheel holder, checking in for a big update for, not a big update, but one I've been wanting to do. There's a truck over there getting ready to head out. It's one I wanted to do this whole week. You know, in your home, you think you're gonna have a lot of time off and you end up with a ton of stuff to do, so it is what it is. And I had to take my truck in the shop, as you guys know. But I wanted to do a quick update and give you guys a list of 5 tools, 5 things on my truck that I use pretty consistently throughout the winter. And I'm not going to include very common things, although a couple of these items may be somewhat common, but I'm not going to include like obvious things like chains. Well, I don't use chains all winter, but I do have them on the truck. I'm not going to include like windshield wiper fluid. So there's some things that, you know, obviously I use through the winter and are good through the winter. But I want to give you my list of 5 things that I feel are must-haves on the truck. One of them will be pretty obvious, but the other 4 maybe not so much. If you drive for prime, probably. But my first thing I want to show you guys, and most of you guys probably, especially if you drive for prime, you probably have this, but an airline. This is, I use this all the time. It connects, it's got a glad hand on it. Connects to your air supply. The other end, you can air your tires up with. Because in the winter, especially right now in October, guys, you're going through hot and then cold and then hot and then cold and high elevations and low elevations. And tires are just, you know, they're overpressure. They've got overpressure, and then you're somewhere and they're under pressure, and you're just constantly having to air up tires. And I hate trying to find an air compressor at a truck stop that actually works. Plus, it's just a pain in the butt. You know, when you're trying to get fuel and stuff, you really want to be holding up the line, airing up all 6 of your tires. And why bother with it when you've got your own airline that you can air up your own tires whenever you want, wherever you are. You get parked, get sorted, you're there for 10 or 12 hours. Then you can kind of take the time to deal with your own, you know, take care of your tires and not be in any rush, not be in anyone's way. So I use that a lot during the winter. And I don't know about you guys, but it is just a constant battle, constant war trying to keep my tires aired up when it gets extremely cold. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing is, I mentioned this on my very first video on YouTube. I think this one's probably uncommon, and I discovered this out of desperation when a couple times, it wasn't just once, this was a few times last winter, where I had picked up a trailer and either it was somewhere it was raining and some water had gotten in around the cap, the reefer fuel cap, or because it's so cold, sometimes drivers just jam that cap down because they just want to get back in the cab and get moving. You know, they're at a meat plant and it's blizzard and there's mud and ice, and they just want to get moving. So they just jam that reefer cap down, and sometimes they screw it on sideways. Well, when it's, you know, 10-15 degrees, extremely cold out, that cap can get jammed. And this happened to me, I think 2 or 3 times last winter. And it's not just that I have weak hands, guys. I think I told you about this in my first video. I had 2 other men, good-sized men, at a Flying J in Virginia, there with me in the fuel island, trying to get that damn reefer cap off, a fuel cap, and just could not get it off. And I was just a few miles away from my delivery. I had to have the trailer full, so kind of panicking. I go inside, and I discover, in kind of a panic, you know, just buy something, see if we can get it to work, the oil filter wrench. This is a 12-inch, I believe. The one that I had in my first video had broken, but I got this. This is a 12-inch wrench. I got this at, I don't know, TA or something for like 13 bucks. That right there is the perfect size for a reefer fuel tank cap. So if you ever get one that's frozen on, can't get it off, that right there will just grab right onto it, give it a twist, you're good to go. So I may only have to use it 2 or 3 times a winter, but now I'm not going to be at the fuel island freaking out. So this is a really good tool. It's cheap, it's a tax write-off. Just get one of these on your truck, you'll be glad you did. This thing, I didn't even really know about this last winter until I went into Prime, because Jen and I, we drove through a blizzard up in New York, Massachusetts, that area. And it just never dawned on me, you know, my windshield wipers were just caked in ice and frozen up. And I just assumed that was part of the battle, because with a car, you don't really get, you know, a four-wheeler, you generally just don't get any kind of special windshield wipers. You just fight with it, because you're not really doing super long drives, you're driving all the time. Well, when I went in to get replacements, they informed me that there is a winter edition of windshield wipers. This is not actually one for my Pete, this is the ones that I had for my Cascadia. But if you look in there, it has a cover around the windshield wiper which prohibits ice and snow from getting there in between the windshield wipers, so keeps it from caking up. And once I switched over to those, we didn't have anywhere near the battle that we'd had before with just the regular, I guess, summer edition or regular windshield wipers. So that'd be number 3. Number 1, airline. Always be able to air up your tires. Don't rely on air compressors at truck stops or places like that. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to air up your own tires. You just set your trailer brakes, disconnect that red line, connect it up to the line, go pressurize. Now, if it's not cold enough, you may have to have someone, co-driver, sit there and keep the truck running, because it's going to have to idle for a bit. But it is really helpful to be able to air up your own tires. Number 2 is the oil filter wrench, to make sure that if your reefer fuel cap gets frozen or stuck, that you can get it off. Number 3, winter edition windshield wipers, certainly. Number 4 for me on that windshield, and this one's the obvious one, guys, but get a good brush and scraper. I don't really ever have to use the scraper. My defroster will take care of the ice pretty quick, get it melted up, but definitely have woken up with, you know, 5-6 inches of snow. So this isn't just for the windshield. I use this for the steps. I use this all over the truck, getting off the mirrors. Get a good brush, not just scraper with a little tiny brush. I mean, get a good one where you can get some extension and you can get the snow off your catwalk, off your lines in the back. You know, you just want to have some good leverage to be able to get the snow off the truck. I use this a lot during the winter. Makes things really quick for me. So that's number 4. Number 5 would be, I suppose this one's kind of obvious for veteran drivers, but keep that fuel from gelling up. This is fuel anti-gel. Prime does not recommend we use the Howe or Howie, not sure how it's pronounced, but the cheap stuff they sell at truck stops. And I'm sure they have a good reason. If they're not wanting to resell trucks that have been using that for the lifetime of the truck, there's got to be a good reason. This stuff they sell at the terminal, it's not too bad. I think it's like $4 a pint, or a quart rather. And I have never had a gel problem. Now I've gotten really lucky because I got caught up in Wisconsin in -10, way up in Wisconsin, and there was no open truck stop, and we had to park, and I was so paranoid. In fact, I was so paranoid I got up about every hour and a half and I moved the truck forward and backwards a few times just to get the fuel moving in the tanks. You know, I have no idea if it helped any. I know that it didn't gel up, but I sat there for 10 hours in -10 with no anti-gel in the tanks. I was terrified that my fuel was gonna gel up. So from that point forward, you know, anytime I go through the Prime terminal, I make sure and get a good 7 or 8 quarts, even though it's, you know, it's gonna cost me a little bit. Better to have them with you. Now, I've heard recommendation that you use a full bottle when you fuel up. I never did. Usually I'll use half a bottle. I'll use quarter of a bottle in each of my fuel tanks, and then put about a quarter of a bottle, and then put a little bit in the reefer tank. Put it in the tank before you fill it up. That way it's kind of, the solution's already in there, and then the fuel that you're putting in the tank is splashing that all around and getting a good mix. But usually I can make one of these last 2 fuel ups. I don't know if that's recommended, so please don't take that as me making some sort of scientific or accurate recommendation. I'm just telling you that's what I did all winter, and I never had my fuel gel up. And I was a team truck, and we drove in -15, you know, like really, really cold. Just moving through that cold all night, all day, every day. Sometimes I'd be parked for 10 or 12 hours in -10, -15. I never had my fuel gel up. So, you know, maybe someone in the comments will say, you're taking a risk, you know, your fuel is gonna gel up, that's not enough. I'm just telling you guys, that's what I did all winter. Every scenario, I used half a bottle of the anti-gel, and it was enough for me. So, but again, I'm not advising you to do that. I'm just saying in my case, I didn't need to use a whole bottle. So anyway, that would be my 5 airlines. Make sure you can air up your own tire. Grab yourself an oil filter wrench to make sure that if your reefer fuel tank ever gets frozen, obviously that's only for reefer drivers, that you can actually get that off. Winter edition windshield wipers, a good snow brush so you can get all the snow off your truck in a pinch, and anti-gel for your fuel tanks. Make sure your fuel doesn't gel up. You can also get some 911 stuff. Can't remember what it's called. I've got a bottle of it somewhere. That in case your fuel does start to gel up, you can put some of that in your tanks, and it's supposed to help you out of that situation. But like I said, I've never had my fuel gel up, so I've never had to do that. But anyway, it's getting messy out there, guys. We got a load headed up to Maine, and right now there is snow everywhere but where we're headed. So we're going the right direction, because it's a mess up in Wyoming, Denver. I'm in Springfield right now, so anything west of here is an absolute mess, but we did get a really good load off the prime yard going up to Maine. So hopefully we'll be able to avoid the mess, at least in the short term, but it is gonna get pretty bad out there quick, so make sure you're prepared, guys. Hopefully these 5 things that I use on my truck throughout the winter are helpful to you. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. Thanks so much. As always, guys, be safe, make good decisions, drive to thrive. Check in with you again soon.